Welcome to Untamed Beer. I'm joined today by my friend Nathaniel, also known by his surname of Lord. And we are here today. We're brewing, I'm brewing a 10-gallon batch of IPA, and we're going to take you through it, and we're going to show you how we brew the Untamed way. I've got a 2-keg system, essentially, 2 half-barrel kegs. The one you see in front of you here is going to be the mash tun. And right now it's filled with 6 1/4 gallons of water that I'm going to heat to 170 degrees using my propane burner stand there. The 6 1/4 gallons comes from the fact that I've got 25 pounds of grain that I've already milled and I'll be using in the mash. The ratio is generally about 1 quart of water of strike water per pound of grain. So this keg you see right here is the brew kettle. So once we mash and drain all the water, it's going to go in there, and that's where we're going to boil the wort. So now I'm about to do the ceremonial lighting of the flame. Again, we're going to heat the water to about 170 degrees. Once all the grain is in the mash tun, the temperature will drop to about 150, 152, which is what I want to mash at. So here we go. Torch. Oh, there we go. Take off. Okay, we've cut the heat. The temperature is right at about 170. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to move, with the help of Lord, we're going to move this over to our ledge over there where it's going to sit and mash. So what we'll do, once we get it over there, we're going to just basically dump the grains in. It's not exactly the ideal way of doing it. Generally, you'd want to kind of bring the water up, put a little grain in, bring the water up, put some more grain in. But remember, this is the Untamed way. That's how I do it. The grains we're going to throw into this IPA. Now, for you purists out there, you're going to say, wait, that's not an IPA. That stuff doesn't go in an IPA. Well, again, that's how I like to do it. We've got some 2-row, a majority is going to be 2-row. I'm using about 1.5 pounds of Crystal 20 to give it a little color. I'm also throwing in 2 pounds of wheat just to give it, you know, a little something refreshing. And then to top it off and give it a little extra color, 1/2 pound of Special B, also known as Extra Special, because, you know, it's an extra special beer. Okay, so I'm just going to pour the grains in. Not too fast, but not too slow. You want to get the grains in quickly to get the temperature to stabilize, but you don't want to put them in too quickly. Oh, I forgot one other special ingredient. Toasted malt. I actually toasted some 2-row in my oven. 15 minutes at 350. Stir every now and again. Mmm, toasty goodness. Oh, toasty goodness. I'll stir this bad boy. It's right at about 150. I think we're good, man. Good. Okay, so we've been mashing for about an hour at about 150, 152 degrees, and now we're going to begin the transfer process from the mash tun into the brew kettle, which is down below. The first step is going to be the Vorlauf, which is kind of a fancy word for setting the grain bed, essentially, so that we can filter the wort from the grains. So what we're going to do first is take a little bit of the wort and drain it into this little thingy here, little teapot, short and stout. And what will happen is the first little bit to come out is going to have some grain husks and stuff like that in it. So you don't want those getting into the brew kettle if you can avoid it. So we'll put that in here, sort of as the liquid comes down from the Vorlauf, it'll kind of set the grain bed on that little strainer thingy that you saw at the very beginning. And this way then the grains will act as a filter, so that as we move the wort into the brew kettle, it'll kind of strain through all that, and all the sugars and everything will rinse off of the grains, which is, you know, what we want to do. We want to get as much of those sugars off the grains as possible. So we will unveil the mash here and we'll begin the Vorlauf. See all the grain husks and everything in there? So what we're going to do is pour this stuff back in to the top, and just to make sure that we're still clear, I'm going to go ahead and do this process again. Oh, and in the meantime, while all this has been going on, I've been heating some sparge water, which once we drain the mash tun, I'm going to do a batch sparge. I heated some water up to about 180 degrees or so to sort of do like a little mash out, to take the temperature up, stop the enzymes. We're going to try to, as slowly as possible, transfer the wort into the brew kettle. So as you can see, it's starting to come in to the kettle. I just want to kind of allow it to trickle in there so that it'll just kind of, it increases your efficiency the slower you can go. Alright, so we've been transferring the wort here for about a half hour, a little over a half hour now. And so what we're going to do now is the sparge. So now we are going to, or I'm going to light the burner once again, bring this up to a boil, and I've got some 60, 15 minute, and then flame out hop additions, so maybe we'll catch those as well. And that's more like it. So the wort's now boiling. I'm going to add my first addition of hops, which is going to be about 2.5 ounces of Amarillo and 1 ounce of Millennium. And that'll go for 60 minutes, and I'll add my next addition at about 15. So let's, I gotta be ready because it'll probably start to boil over again when I add the hops. So I gotta be ready with my trusty wooden spoon. Some more Amarillo. There we go. So we'll make sure this doesn't boil over. All right, this is the 15-minute mark. Well, 15 minutes remaining, I should say. I'm going to add 2.5 ounces of nugget hops and ½ ounce of the Amarillo that I used in the boil. So I'm just going to go ahead and add it in. You'll also notice I added my copper wort chiller. That usually I add that around 20 minutes in order to sanitize it and get it ready for when we start to cool it off after the boil. So we've got 15 minutes to go, and then we'll add our final aroma hops and start cooling. Alright, so we've been boiling for probably a little over an hour now. I'm going to add the last little bit of hops. I've got 3 ounces of Centennial and ½ ounce of the nugget that I added at 15 minutes. And I've also started my wort chiller. Oh, that's hot. And it'll probably end up taking, I don't know, about 45 minutes to cool 10 or 11 gallons of wort. So I've got my little strainer. I'm going to strain out, try to grab some of the hops if I can. Got my funnel all sanitized, tube hooked up. So we're just going to let her rip. And so one advantage of running it through the strainer, aside from getting the hops out, is I'm hoping to allow it to get some oxygen in there. We are now going to pitch the yeast. I've got my yeast starter. Some ale yeast is going to go in here, just regular old ale yeast. I'm actually going to pour two small beakers into this one, just because I can. And then I'm going to pour that big bad boy right over yonder into the bigger carboy. Well, there you have it. The yeast is pitched. I'm going to set these bad boys away in a cool, dark place. Primary should take about 7 days, I'm thinking. And then in secondary, I'm going to dry hop them with a couple ounces of Cascade in each carboy, and probably let that sit for about 2 weeks. And then bottle, give those another 10 days to 2 weeks, and then it's time for drinking. So I'm excited. It was a long day, a good day, had some adventures. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Maybe learned a thing or two, even just one, then I'm happy. But this is Brian on behalf of Lord, Holly, our sound person, and Dan, Thunderous Dan, our cameraman. It's Untamed Beer, signing off.
I like Thunderous Dan.
Untamed Beer!
That's good.
That's Untamed.